So I kind of saw this coming, but man, I didn't really feel ready for it when it actually happened. There was a lot of ignoring, not being nice, and straight up saying no to any cuddly or lovey-dovey stuff. All of these things made me think my wife might be cheating on me, thinking about cheating, or just plain tired of being married to me. Over the past few months, I sort of made peace with the idea that we might not stay together. It seemed like it was getting easier for her to accept this too. But what really puzzled me was why she didn't just pack up and leave. Like, why stick around and make it harder on both of us? Just say bye and go live your life, right? I didn't move any money around because we didn't have a lot to begin with. We lived in a house that didn't owe money to anyone, but that's only because it used to belong to my grandma. We moved in there after she passed away. Even back then, I noticed some things that bugged me. So, I had a chat with my folks and they were cool with keeping the house under their names for a year just to make sure it stayed ours. You know, just to be safe. We actually stayed in that house for 6 years. Then, one night, Sandy, that's my wife, had a bit too much wine and fell asleep with a bunch of candles still burning. One of those candles was way too close to the curtains. And well, you can guess that didn't end too well. So, this whole situation started because things between me and my wife weren't going great. It felt like she wasn't into being my wife anymore. She wasn't nice to me, didn't want to hang out, and it seemed like she might be interested in someone else. I kind of knew deep down that our marriage wasn't going to last. It got to a point where it seemed like she was okay with things ending between us. But what confused me was why she didn't just say it was over and leave. I mean, why drag it out, right? We didn't split our money or anything because we weren't exactly rolling in cash. We lived in this house that didn't cost us because it used to belong to my grandma, and we moved in after she passed away. I had a weird feeling about things from the start, so I talked to my parents and they agreed to keep the house in their name for a bit, just to make sure it was really ours. Fast forward, we've been living there for 6 years and then one night Sandy, that's my wife, accidentally starts a fire in our house. She fell asleep with a bunch of candles lit and before you know it our living room is on fire. I got there at the same time as the firefighters and I had to tell them about my gun collection and the bullets I had, which is super dangerous in a fire. When the bullets started going off because of the heat, the firefighters had to back off and let the house burn. One of the firefighters was a close friend of mine and he said that the fire was too bad for the insurance to not pay out. Luckily, there was nothing in our insurance that said they wouldn't pay for accidents like this, so we ended up getting about $30,000 from it. We decided to move into my grandma's house, and after all that, we still had about $20,000 left. We agreed that if we split, she'd take half, which would be enough for her to start over in a new place while I stayed at my grandma's house. I did a few more things to sort out our situation, thinking if we ever did split for good, she'd be really surprised. I saw this coming. I just didn't think it would all happen so smoothly, especially since I was working different hours from her. It was a lot to handle, but somehow it all felt like it was going to be okay in the end. So, I was coming home late because of my job, and it's the middle of winter. It gets dark super early, right? When I get home, I notice something's off. Her car isn't there and the porch light's out. That's weird. I call out for her as I walk in, but no answer. Then I find her at her dressing table, doing her makeup. And she's dressed up way fancier than usual in a new little black dress that I've never seen before. It's pretty fancy looking, short and with a low-cut neckline. I just stand there watching her, and she totally ignores me. So I'm like, are we going somewhere? But nope, she says she's got a date with another guy. You can imagine she's expecting me to lose it, but I don't. I just keep staring and she starts to get all twitchy. She makes it clear she's going out with someone else and I'm just there saying nope. Nope, as in no way is this happening while we're still living together. I tell her she's free to see whoever she wants, but only after she moves out. I say I'll get the paperwork ready for us to split, but she's not to pull any of this under our shared roof. I suggest she packs up and stays elsewhere for a bit, giving me time to figure things out, and then we can sort through our stuff. But then she laughs, this weird, harsh laugh, and says she's not leaving. She loves the house and plans to redecorate it her way once she gets it. She thinks she'll get a big chunk of money if we have to sell it, assuming she can somehow prove she deserves it. It's like she's playing a game, thinking she's got it all figured out. So, things got pretty intense. After all that talk about dates and moving out, I suggest maybe she should stay with her parents until everything between us is settled. But she's not having it and tells me I should be the one to leave. Then she drops a bombshell. She's leaving in about 30 minutes for her date and warns me not to be around when she gets back. She even threatens to call the cops on me, saying she could make up a story about domestic violence to get me arrested and kicked out for good. She's thinking she can change the locks and get a restraining order against me while I'm gone. Her threat catches me off guard, but I just smile and tell her not to do anything rash. She's adamant, though, saying it's already decided and trying to intimidate me further. She goes back to her makeup, picking out a bright red lipstick, acting all confident. I didn't say anything more. I just left the room. I knew deep down she wouldn't have her date pick her up from our place, meaning she planned to drive herself. That's when I decided to take a drastic step. I went to the garage, grabbed an aluminum baseball bat, and vented my frustration on her car's headlights and taillights, making sure she couldn't use it. After that, I noticed her purse on the counter, took a peek inside, and saw she had a 6-pack of condoms. I didn't want to leave any evidence, so I took her phone to the garage, removed the battery, and then, with a hammer, I smashed the phone into 3 pieces. It was a moment of sheer frustration, and I guess I wasn't thinking straight about the consequences. After messing with her car and almost sabotaging the condoms, but then, deciding against it, I put her phone back in her purse without the battery. I was kind of caught in the moment, not really thinking straight about what I was doing. Then she walks into the kitchen, looking all dressed up, with the tallest heels I've ever seen her wear. She's not happy to see me still there, and she's like, "Get out." But me, I'm just chilling, sipping my coffee, not letting her threats get to me. She tries to scare me by saying she's going to call the cops on me, telling me I should start thinking about bail money. I'm confused, like, why would the cops bother me? I haven't done anything to her. I didn't threaten her or touch her. I just didn't agree to leave my own house. But she's got a plan. She's going to tell the police that I threatened her and that she's scared for her life because I got mad when she wanted a divorce. She's pretty convinced they'll take her side just because she's the woman in this situation. She's dead serious, giving me a 30-minute warning before she makes the call. Then, she walks off, trying to look all determined in those high heels. It's a messy situation, and it looks like it's about to get messier. So, just a few minutes after the whole threatening to call the police showdown, she finds out about her car. She storms in furious, accusing me of wrecking her ride. I play it cool, acting like I have no idea what she's talking about, suggesting maybe she shouldn't have parked on the street. But she quickly switches gears, saying she'll just get her date to pick her up, and even promises me a front row seat to their goodbye kiss. I can't help but laugh a bit at that, telling her to go ahead and call him. I throw in that it'll be interesting to meet the guy and give him a heads up about what he's getting into. She finds her phone busted right after, which only adds fuel to the fire, but she doesn't give up. She swaps her high heels for sneakers and storms out, leaving me with a sarcastic, "Have a nice evening." As she's leaving, she throws one last insult my way, but I'm already over it. I watch from a distance as she tries to get help from the neighbors, knocking on doors, only to be turned away. It turns out my mom had given everyone a heads up about the situation, which is why no one was opening their doors to her. So there I am, feeling a mix of relief and guilt, watching as she realizes she's on her own. It was a messy, intense situation, but in that moment, I knew it was the beginning of the end for us. After my wife left, trying unsuccessfully to get help from our neighbors, I settled in, knowing the police would likely show up soon because of her threat to call them. Sure enough, about 20 minutes later, the cops arrive. One of the officers is someone I went to high school with, which made the situation a bit less intimidating. I welcomed them inside and offered them coffee, trying to keep things friendly. When they mentioned they were there because of a report of domestic disturbance, I played it cool and pointed out the lack of evidence like broken furniture, injuries, or any signs of a physical fight. They explained that my wife had accused me of threatening her, saying I'd ruin her life after she announced she was leaving me. That's when they dropped the bombshell that they had to arrest me based on her claims. I asked how serious making false claims or perjury was, suggesting I had evidence that could show her allegations were false. So I pulled out my phone and showed them a video I had taken. The video seemed to change the game. It showed that there wasn't any violence from my side and even captured her threatening me, saying, "You'll get yours." The cops explained that while the issue of perjury was out of my hands and up to them to pursue, the video gave me solid ground to get a restraining order against her because of her clear threat towards me. It was a stressful situation, turning the whole evening on its head, but that video was my ace in the hole, proving my side of the story and protecting me from false accusations. So, after showing the cops the video, it looks like things are starting to shift in my favor. The police officers suggest that it's probably best for my wife and me to keep our distance from each other for the time being. They tell me I can officially apply for a restraining order the next day, and even use their names as references for what went down tonight. They also advise me to secure the house to prevent her from coming back, and to call them if she tries. Then there's a lighter moment amidst all the tension. One of the cops, Heather, who I went to school with, reminds me not to retaliate or do anything that could make the situation worse. She wants me to let the legal process handle things. In an attempt to lighten the mood, I tease her with an old nickname, Sweet Cheeks, which embarrasses her but also brings back a bit of our old camaraderie. It's a brief moment where we remember our past friendship, even though she's in a professional role now. Just as the cops are wrapping up, giving me that last bit of advice about handling the situation legally, and not personally, my wife makes another bold move. She tries to sneak into the garage, probably aiming to take my car and leave. Unfortunately for her, she left her keys inside, and with the police still there, her plan falls apart. She gets caught in the act, adding another layer of complication to an already chaotic evening. This whole scenario underscores the messiness of our separation, with emotions running high and both of us making rash decisions. It's clear that we're both struggling to navigate this breakup. But now, with the law involved, it's taken on a whole new level of seriousness. In this wild turn of events, things escalate even further. My wife, in her desperation to leave, spots the set of spare keys I keep on my workbench. She eyes my 1989 commuter, a beast of a car that's rarely used except for hauling things or the occasional fishing trip. It's huge, powerful, and exactly what she thinks she needs to make her escape. What she didn't realize was that I had disabled the garage door opener, a precaution I took, just in case. When she fires up the car, its roar fills the garage. She hits the garage door opener button, but of course the door doesn't budge. In the darkness, not realizing the door is still closed, she releases the clutch and floors it, expecting to speed away into the night. The consequences are immediate and chaotic. The car, with its massive engine and power, smashes through the closed garage door, creating a cacophony of tearing metal. It doesn't stop there. The momentum is so great that it crashes into the back of the police car parked outside, pushing it several feet forward and causing a lot of damage. At this moment, Officer Heather is quick on her feet, narrowly avoiding getting caught in the collision by seconds. Her partner, on the other hand, isn't so lucky. He was just about to get back into the police car when my wife's car slams into it, sending him flying down the driveway. Now I know Heather well enough to anticipate her reaction. Her fiery temperament, much like her red hair, means she's not one to take such a dramatic series of events lightly. The situation, already tense and complicated, has just added a layer of urgency and potential legal repercussions, turning an already bad night into a downright disaster. In the chaos that follows the crash, the scene outside my house quickly becomes something out of a movie. Officer Heather, showing her quick reflexes and fiery spirit, pulls my wife, Ginger, out of the car. Ginger is pretty much in shock at this point, barely able to comprehend what just happened as Heather handcuffs her. Heather immediately calls for backup and medical assistance, reporting an officer down. Officer Jones, the one who got hit, is in bad shape. His face took the brunt of the impact, and it's clear he's got a broken nose among other injuries. I jump in to help, holding his head to keep his airway clear of blood, fearing the worst about spinal injuries. It felt like an eternity before the ambulance arrived. Soon, the street in front of my house is filled with police cars. It's like every officer in town has shown up. Heather goes to the hospital with Officer Jones, who's seriously injured, and Ginger is also taken by ambulance because of the injuries she sustained from the airbag and the crash. I find myself retelling the story of what happened to the investigators multiple times. Being from a small town means I know quite a few of the officers, including the one in charge, who used to be my baseball coach in high school. Despite his rank, to me he'll always be coach. The concern for Officer Jones is palpable, with everyone anxious for any news on his condition, highlighting the tight-knit nature of our community and the personal connections that run deep, even in times of crisis. The aftermath of the chaotic events takes a legal turn. Coach, now in charge of the police response, tells me that Officer Jones's condition doesn't seem too dire at the moment, but they're waiting for more detailed examinations like MRIs and X-rays to know for sure. Meanwhile, my wife Ginger, despite the dramatic and dangerous situation she caused, seems to be physically okay and is facing charges related to her reckless actions. In a bold move, Ginger drains our joint bank account of $19,000, leaving me with just $1,000. She claims she needs the money for her legal defense and to repay her parents. With a restraining order in place, any communication we have is through our lawyers, making our separation not just emotional but formally legal. During our first legal meeting, which was quite unproductive for her, I'm backed by my parents and my lawyer, emphasizing the family's involvement and concern over the matter. Her lawyer presents her demands, which include wanting the house or at least half of its value. However, she's unaware that the house is actually in my father's name, a fact that shocks her when revealed by my lawyer. This revelation nullifies her claim to the property, since legally she cannot claim half of something that doesn't belong to me in the first place. But Ginger doesn't stop there. Her next demand is for all new furniture for the house, including living room, dining room, and bedroom furniture, as well as a silver service and new kitchen appliances. Her demands illustrate not only her anger and frustration, but also a desperation to salvage something from the wreckage of our marriage, irrespective of the legal and moral implications of her actions. The legal battle seems to be just beginning, with both sides digging in for what appears to be a long and contentious divorce process. In this unfolding drama, the legal maneuvers become more strategic and revealing. My lawyer presents documents proving that virtually everything we owned was purchased with funds from my father's account. This setup, where I reimbursed my dad in cash for checks he wrote for our purchases, effectively means that all the property, including the furniture, is legally his. This clever arrangement puts Ginger in a difficult position, as she realizes that she has no claim over the furniture or most of the household items. Despite these revelations, there's a gesture of goodwill, or perhaps strategy on my part. I fix her car and deliver it to her parents' house. This move, while helpful to her, also underlines the finality of our separation and the division of our shared life. The judge overseeing our divorce proceedings seems amused by the legal tightrope I've walked, acknowledging that I effectively protected my assets while adhering to the letter of the law. His comment about me cutting Ginger's legs out from under her underscores the extent to which I anticipated the potential for a messy divorce and took steps to shield myself. In court, the judge lays out the situation to Ginger. The legality of the arrangements is ironclad, leaving her with limited options. I offer her a final deal, proposing that she can keep the $19,000 she took from our joint account if she agrees to the divorce terms. This puts her in a bind. Although furious, she's cornered by her own actions and the legal predicaments they've caused. Ultimately, she has no viable choice but to agree to the terms. The judge finalizes the divorce, hammering down the gavel that signifies not just the end of our marriage, but also my strategic, though somewhat reluctant, victory in protecting myself and moving on as a free man. This conclusion highlights the complex interplay of foresight, legal strategy, and personal decisions in navigating the dissolution of a marriage fraught with conflict and strategic financial considerations. So this lady had to stop thinking about me because she had a bunch of other stuff going on. First off, she got in trouble for lying to the police. Then, she got accused of attacking a police officer while they were in a car. Basically, she got into a mess with the law over some small issues that didn't really stick. But the main reason they were upset with her was something to do with a police officer named Jones. Somehow, she got off pretty easy and only had to deal with being on probation for a year. A month after all this happened, we bumped into each other at Walmart. She seemed like she wanted to chat, so we grabbed some drinks at the cafe there and sat down to talk. It took her a bit to start talking, but then she asked me why I was so mean to her. I kind of threw the question back at her, asking when she decided to stop trying with our marriage. I pointed out that she could have just ended things between us instead of making everything so tough for the last few months. I also asked her why she had to rub it in my face by showing off her new date. After living together for so long, she should have known I wasn't the type to just let go easily. She was quiet for a bit and then finally said she hadn't been happy for a long time. She really hated that our house burned down, hated moving to a new place, and hated leaving our friends behind. She thought that was the start of our problems. Looking back, she admitted I was a decent guy and that she should have just talked to me about how she was feeling. What she said next caught me off guard because it sounded kind of silly. She didn't realize I also liked where we lived before. I told her if she had let me know she wanted to stay, we could have used the insurance money to buy a new place. So it's like a conversation where they're both realizing they should have talked more about their feelings and what they wanted, instead of letting everything build up and explode. So even after we moved to a new place, it was like, hey, we can totally go back to our old spot anytime. But deep down, I felt like you actually wanted to bail out. And then, all of a sudden, there's this big happy musical number at the end. Like, what's up with that? I know it wasn't completely your fault, but at the time I was pretty mad and blamed you for everything. Honestly, I wasn't really paying attention to anyone else. My main thing was just to make you feel bad. Looking back, I totally wish I had acted differently. You were onto something. We should have just talked it all out and split up on good terms. After everything, I kind of had this aha moment. And you, Ginger, you seriously need to see someone for help. You're a mess. I heard rumors you might be coming back home, but I guess we probably won't run into each other. I hope you manage to live a good life. And hey, if you ever fall for someone new, let's hope you've learned something from all the drama we went through. I didn't even bother saying goodbye when I left. Years later, I ended up seeing her again when I was back in town for a buddy's funeral. She looked pretty much the same, just a tiny bit heavier and with longer hair. She gave me a smile when she saw me, but we didn't chat. And honestly, I was cool with that. It felt right to just leave our history behind us. About 2 years after all that craziness, I bumped into Sergeant Sweetcheeks at a shooting range. She was rocking some jeans and still looked amazing. We got to chatting and I found out she was getting hitched to Officer Jones, who was all healed up. They even got a nice chunk of change for my car insurance, which they planned to use to help buy a house. 18 months after that, I saw her again and asked how married life was treating her. So yeah, that's the story made super straightforward and easy to get, like explaining it to a buddy. She snorted. He didn't seem to have as high an opinion of my ass as you did. I caught him with a different ass in the ass. Belonged to a man we didn't part on the best terms. I would like to sympathize, but I don't. She seemed surprised. Why not? Because now you're free again. I hope I never got that sweet ass spanked in high school. This might be my chance, and just so you know, even if it's a world-class ass, I heard you a detective. Now, can you use the superior brain power to understand what I'm thinking? She blushed slightly before laughing. If that's what you're thinking, I'll have to arrest you. Anal sex is still illegal in 9 states. It was my turn to glow, but I smiled. Is this one of those states? No, you're lucky if you really like this superb ass and are willing to treat me the way I deserve. You may find that I'm inclined to share what I really like with the right man. Pick me up at 7. Put on a suit and don't say anything stupid. Now shut up and act. I showed up exactly at 7 in my best suit. I don't know if it was genetics or training, but even as stupid as I can be, sometimes I knew better than to complain about it. I didn't put her to bed until we were married 9 months after our first date. All I can tell you is that it was worth the wait. And now this is the captain of Sweetcheeks. I may say stupid things, with calling her Sweetcheeks in public is not the same thing. Although she likes it when I talk like that in the bedroom. Ginger was seeing a psychologist. I don't know if this helps or not. She married twice and her second husband seemed to be cautious. He seems to keep her on a pretty short leash and reminds her of me when she gets out of control by telling her that I'm not the only one who would do this to her. It seems to help her focus, at least on her cousin who told me about it. All I can say is good for her. Our daughter Kelly got married today. Our wedding gift to her was my grandmother's old house. Heather never liked him, and when her parents died, we moved into her house, a big 2-story old farmhouse. Our son Mark will receive it when we go to another world. And this, I hope, will not happen soon after Kelly left for her honeymoon. I surprised my Sweetcheeks with tickets to one of those ocean cruises. A 25th wedding anniversary gift. She always wanted to go, and I finally saved up the money to invite her along. 2 weeks traveling around Europe. Her dream vacation. This got me some really good love and a rare shot at her back to war. She says she likes it, but I think she only does it to please me. And despite my many faults, being a selfish asshole doesn't seem to be the case. So I only take what she decides to give. And I'm happy with it. I have to go. Sweetcheeks calls me back to bed and gives me a little blue pill and a glass of water. Looks like it's going to be a very nice holiday.